Okay, Mataji. Okay, Mataji. Got it. I'm just doing the setup now. It should be in 30 seconds. Mataji, you can start saying your prayers.
Do we sing Jai Radha Madhav Prabhu or not? Do you know?
Not usually, Mataji.
Jai Radha Giri Gopi Janna Girvaradha Yashodan Rajajana Ranjana Yashodan Rajajana Ranjana Yashodan Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Radha Madhava Kunjabi Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Jaya Radha Gauranita Gauranita Jaya 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 Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपीशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्तुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिया नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासादि गौरवृंदा Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Mataji, I'm sharing the screen so you
Yes,
can
yes.
you
Yes,
can
Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Really appreciate that. Okay. Okay, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we will read from Canto 3, Chapter 21, texts 48 to 50. So I will mainly speak on the 50th verse. It's got a very nice purport. And yeah, so we'll begin, but I'll read all the translations. Okay. So text 48. Atho tajam upayatam nirvedam pranatam pura saparyaya paryagranat pratinandaya nurupaya. Translation. Seeing that the monarch had come to his hermitage and was bowing before him, the sage greeted him with benediction and received him with due honor. Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Emperor Swambhu Manu not only approached the cottage of dried leaves possessed by the hermit Kardam, but also offered respectful obeisances unto him. Similarly, it was the duty of the hermit to offer blessings to kings who used to approach his hermitage in the jungle. Text 49, just the translation. After receiving the sage's attention, After receiving the sage's attention, the king sat down and was silent. Recalling the instructions of the Lord, Kardam then spoke to the king as follows, delighting him with sweet accents. The last text, text 50. Translation. The tour you have undertaken, O Lord, is surely intended to protect the virtuous and kill the demons, since you embody the protecting energy of Sri Hari. Purport. It appears from many Vedic literatures, especially histories like Srimad Bhagavatam and the other Puranas, that the pious kings of old used to tour their kingdoms in order to give protection to the pious citizens and to chastise or kill the impious. Sometimes they used to kill animals in the forest to practice the killing art, because without such practice, they would not be able to kill the undesirable elements. Kshatriyas are allowed to commit violence in that way because violence for a good purpose is a part of their duty. Here, two terms are clearly mentioned: vadhaya, for the purpose of killing, and asatam, those who are undesirable. The protecting energy of the king is supposed to be the energy of the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, paritradaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. The Lord descends to give protection to the pious and to kill the demons. Therefore, the potency to give protection to the pious and kill the demons or undesirables is directly an energy from the Supreme Lord. And the king or the chief executive of the state is supposed to possess such energy. In this age, it is very difficult to find a head of state who is expert in killing the undesirables. Modern heads of state sit very nicely in their palaces and try without reason to kill innocent persons. Om Agyan Timranutya Gyananjana Shrakaya Chakshurimritam Lina. So here, Maitreya Muni, he's has replied to Vidura's questions about population, and that's where Kardamuni's story comes in, because Kardamuni is one of the sons of Brahma, and he was asked to populate the universe. And so Kardamuni, he prayed for many, many years, like 10,000 years, performing yoga and austerity. So really, the story of Kardamuni, which is, spans a few chapters, not many, it's an in-between chapter, which is leading to the birth and activities of Kapil Muni. So the teachings of Kapil Muni to Devabhuti is a very long section, and it's supremely important. It's very important because they are on a higher level. Now, Karda Muni's story is very, very pertinent to all of us, who are, have situations very similar, in terms of marriage and things like, having a family. So Karda Muni here is praying for so long. He's actually a very pure devotee of the Lord, and he's praying very long because for the purpose of getting a suitable wife. Now, one would think that why is Kapil Muni, Karda Muni, praying for a suitable wife? And he's performing really long austerities. So, on one end, one would think it's very foolish. However, we know from Shastras that one should, no matter even if you have material desires, we should ask God, because Krishna can give the highest thing. Krishna can purify our desires. And also, Krishna is happy to fulfill our desires. It's okay, because just like a parent, a child goes to a parent and gives a gift, but the parents is so happy to see the child come to him and offer that gift in devotion. Or even when the parent gives the gift to the child, he's happy because the child has asked for something. So Krishna doesn't like when his devotees ignore him. So even when we have material desires and we go to the Lord, he's happy because we've considered him, in a personal way. We have a relationship with him, even though it's a relationship of asking, give me this, give me that. One thing Krishna doesn't like, he doesn't like to be ignored, just like the Mayavadis do, right? That is a no-no, right? So here, Karda Muni is actually a very pure devotee, and he's doing this this long tapasya for 10,000 years to get something very mundane. However, it's an order from Brahma, and he's like a dutiful son. He's carrying out this order. However, we know that Krishna can award the highest thing. So why ask for something less? But we'll see how Krishna is so pleased with his prayers, with his austerities, that actually he sheds tears, and that tears, as we know, becomes this beautiful lake. So this is a wonderful lesson for us. And so Krishna, when he came in front of him, he told Karda Muni that I already knew what is in your heart. And again, this is a big lesson for us, that Krishna actually knows what our deepest desire is. And he arranged that the wonderful daughter of Shatarupa and Swambhu Manu to be brought before Karda Muni in 2 days. In 2 days. So quickly Krishna arranged. And this is the wonderful thing about going to Krishna, even for the fulfillment of our material desires, is that Krishna does respond to his devotees in a way that his desires may be fulfilled, but at the same time, the desires get purified. So they come to hand their daughter, and before this, however, before Swambhu Manu comes with his daughter and his wife, there's a very sweet exchange that takes place between Swambhu Manu and Karda Muni. And this is what we're going to be hearing in this section. Because in this section of the Bhagavatam that we're going to read today, we're going to learn something about Vedic culture, which we know is vanishing very quickly in this world. And what is this Vedic culture? We're going to learn, particularly in this section, we're going to learn about duties of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, and how both are required in society. It is not that the Kshatriyas only glorify the Brahmanas because they are meant to be considered higher. But we will see in this chapter how the Brahmana, Karda Muni, glorified the Kshatriyas. And then after this takes place in the next chapter, Swambhu Manu will express his mind, will glorify Karda Muni. So, however, in the Bhagavatam, we know that, and also in Bhagavad Gita, sometimes we hear that that we are not a Brahmana, we are not a Kshatriya, or we are not a Vaishya or a Shudra, we are eternal souls, right? This is what's emphasized in the Bhagavatam, that we are eternal soul, we are the servant of Krishna. And in some parts of the Bhagavatam, just seeing us as one of the four is decried. But in other parts of the Bhagavatam, such designations are glorified. So how do we see this? Well, the reason why these designations are glorified, because since we are conditioned and the society needs to be organized properly, then the only way that people can be raised to the platform of seeing themselves as spirit soul is to function properly in these four designations. So therefore, the material society is necessary in order to raise the people to the spiritual platform. So here both the roles of a Brahmana and Kshatriya are being glorified. So in this section, from the verse 50 that we are, reading from that pulpit, 258 actually, Karda Muni in this chapter glorifies the position of a Kshatriya king, who is the representative of the Lord himself, because he is entrusted with the job of protecting the citizens and establishing this dharma, this varna ashram dharma. So in those Vedic days, during the Vedic, when the Vedic culture was very prominent, the relationship between Brahmana and Kshatriya was very respectful, because they understood the interdependence of each other. It's not like the Brahmanas thought themselves higher than the Kshatriyas or vice versa. Why? Because the head, which is the Brahmanas, also needs the arms and the legs and everything, especially the arms. So they were naturally respectful to the arms, because with the arms, the Brahmanas were protected. Who's going to protect them? It's going to be the Kshatriyas. How will protection come without that? However, the Kshatriyas are not proud of their position. Why? Because they need the guidance from the head, from the Brahmanas. So in this universal form, we understand that the head and the arms are more necessary and more respected, because when we are in danger, what do we protect first? We protect the head and the arms, because naturally they represent more important responsibilities. So here, Srila Prabhupada in the pulpit is saying that Kshatriyas are allowed to commit violence, because violence, he's saying, is a good purpose, is part of their duty. Violence, for a good purpose is part of their duty. And he's mentioning how the protecting energy of the Lord, of the king, is supposed to be the energy of the Supreme Lord. And Srila Prabhupada is even quoting the verse 4:8, which says that the Lord descends to give protection to the pious and to kill the demons. And the same potency to give protection and to kill the demons is also given to his representative. It's directly an energy of the Lord. And the king or any leader is supposed to possess that energy. So I was thinking a deeper question in this which can be asked, is why does the Lord engage in violence? Isn't violence bad? Or why does he empower his devotees to kill? So the point to consider that Prabhupada talks in different other purports is that there is a difference between good and bad violence. Because Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita 4:8, that he comes down to protect the pious and annihilate the miscreants. So the difference is that the point is that when Krishna or his devotee kill, they're using violence to uproot another violence. Just like one uses a thorn to remove another thorn. You know, when you go and Braja Mandal, barefoot, then you get all these thorns in your feet. And there's nothing, I mean, it's just like forest area. So you take another thorn and you remove this thorn. So Srila Prabhupada, he, in another purport, in the third canto, he says that the potency to protect the pious and annihilate the miscreants is given by the Lord and the king for the purpose of protecting the citizens and punishing criminals. Of course, it behooves the king or the government to understand what is proper and what is improper use of violence. Just like Prabhupada gives the example of Arjuna, he in the beginning, he mistakenly thought that, that fighting would be violence and would be adharmic, and he refused to fight. After Krishna convinced him that by following his orders, he would actually become a follower of religious principles. So therefore, Prabhupada explains that one cannot manufacture your own religious principles through some kind of concoction. You cannot do that. This is not dharma. What is Bhagavad Dharma? Is that dharma which is given by the Supreme Lord himself. And Krishna tells what is the Bhagavad Dharma in the last verse. Sarva dharman parityajya mamikam sharanam raja. That's Bhagavad Dharma. So Krishna has to establish the religious principles. Nobody else can do it. And what others can do, and what the king does, he accepts the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and rules according to him, by surrendering to him and considering that as the ultimate dharma. And we see that in Mahabharata, and also in the Mahabharata, we see that how the Pandavas were upholding religious principles. And they're empowered by the Lord to fight on the battlefield. And they're doing this after all the peace attempts have failed. And they do it in a very nice way. They aspire to follow proper codes of conduct. And there's Kshatriya rules, there's Kshatriya codes of conduct. And one of them, for example, is that don't attack under the belt. And a number of other ethics. These are the ethics of Kshatriya life. And they followed that. Of course, when sometimes we see how the devotees, the Pandavas, break that principle. But again, under a higher principle of Krishna's order, like Bhima, he hit Duryodhana under the belt, didn't he? But that was he was doing that to please the Lord. That was the higher dharma in place of the lower dharma. So that's why when we read stories from the Srimad Bhagavatam, when we hear the stories and we see how there's big violent scenes, we can understand that the Lord and his great devotees sometimes use violence to kill demons and protect the innocent. And this is what Kardamuni is glorifying, Swayambhu Manu's role. Because this is the reality of life, really, material life, where it's impossible actually to remain non-violent. One is either a victim or one is either a perpetrator of violence in one form or the other. Of course, in the material world, when people do violence on each other, it's really meant for satisfying their own senses. Because their senses have not been satisfied, then what happens? They feel frustrated and they become revengeful. And of course, what is the result of such violence? Very bad, negative consequences, not only to the person who's doing it, but also to the victim. And Krishna, he descends to stop that kind of violence and to protect his devotees. So in this way, because Krishna is coming again and again to do this, to protect the devotees and to annihilate the demons, devotees feel safe and confident in the Lord's protection. So basically, fighting goes on because of our own selfish interest. Everybody is fighting to lord over material nature. Therefore, there must be fight. Prabhupada says, but in Vaikuntha, there is only one Lord and everyone are servitors. Therefore, there is peace. So this is what Swayambhu Kardamuni is glorifying, the role of the Kshatriyas, how they are so necessary in society. Because they are God conscious, because they are Krishna conscious, they can do it right. They can genuinely approve bad violence in order to establish religious principles. And that responsibility they take up in a proper way because they know what is religious principle and what is not. Not unlike today. Unlike today, I mean, it's so bad. I mean, Kshatriyas, they are hardly Kshatriyas. The whole country is now governed by Vaishyas. No Brahmanas, no Kshatriyas, just Vaishyas. And they control the Kshatriyas. They control the government. So how can there be peace? How can there be peace? Everybody is trying to see their selfish interest, how they can, get the most gratification and most money and all that. And this represents in society also. When there's no proper ruler at the top, at the helm, we see that common people also revert to unlawful means. It's natural, whatever the leader does, the common people follow. And that's why you see in society today, especially in television and video games and movies, there's no end to the violence. You don't understand what is proper violence and what is not proper violence. However, what's the violence that's described in the scriptures, and whatever is taken and whatever the Kshatriya king does is for a purpose. And once that purpose is fulfilled, the violence ends. Okay. So it's half hour now. So I was thinking that I can stop here. And if anybody has any questions, comments, or reflections.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the very nice class, Mataji.
Thank you.
I was just thinking, even that time, Kardama Kapil Dev in Satyayuga, right, Mataji? Satyayuga. Satyayuga, I thought. Kapil Dev.
Yeah, he's one of the incarnation. Yeah, he's an incarnation of the Lord. Yes.
Yeah, even that time, there were, there was a need for the protection. There were undesirable elements in society. Even in Satyayuga, that was a little bit of a surprise to me to learn.
Oh, I see.
Hare Krishna. Even
yes,
that
yes.
time.
The story of Parikshit Maharaj, also. Yeah, he came towards the, Kali Yuga, right? The beginning of Kali Yuga. So even he had to do that job, right?
Yeah.
You know the story of how he went. And that's really the role of a proper Kshatriya. He went around the kingdom to make sure that these unlawful. But they were quite numbered. That's why he was able to take care of them and punish them, right?
Yeah.
They were not like today.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a good point. Really nice point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. It's a good point to ponder.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru and Gauranga.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Mataji, wonderful class. It also brings up so many questions, including Varna Shankara. So on Varna Shankara, I was thinking two different points. One point is, can we consider Karna Varna Shankara because he lost the cover of the family? So that is one question. And the other question is completely today, modern world, where wokeism is spreading. You know what I mean, correct? Confusion of genders, and it's actively being promoted. And I think that's because of increase of Varna Shankara in the society. I want your comments on both of them. Correct.
You asking very difficult questions. Both are very difficult to answer, these questions. Well, Varna, I don't know about Karna because I don't think so, because, you know, it was a special circumstance where Kunti, you know, where Kunti was actually a little girl, and she, out of just curiosity, she invoked the sun god, and so she, according to Durvasa Muni's you know, boon, she was meant to have a child, because, and she did it very innocently. She was just a little girl, and so when that happened, the society was so you know, was so conservative in, you know, in that sense, that there was she could not keep the child, you know, and so she allowed the child, and society was such that you could expect somebody to actually pick up the child and raise the child. Today, if you try to do that, you can imagine what could happen, right? It would be a huge problem, you know, the child would not even survive. So considering the social circumstances and considering Kunti's position, it seemed like she would not do with anything, would have nothing to do with any immorality, you know, or any, you know, nowadays Varna Sankara is mostly due to degradation, you know, where people have relationships and they just leave the child to, you know, to be adopted or whatever. They don't want to take responsibility of the child, you know. So for my humble opinion would be that, but others can correct me. Like I said, I'm not, you know, I'm not authority on this. And the other thing regarding gender is, you know, I don't know much really about this, but in terms of scriptural references, but the way Srila Prabhupada saw that, I mean, he, you know, he always dealt on the platform of the soul, you know, that obviously is, you know, like he dealt on the platform of the soul. So we look at everybody, even though they have these gender issues, we look at them on the level of the spirit soul and deal with that accordingly, give them Krishna consciousness. Because according to Srila Prabhupada, you know, if one is transgressing, you know, scriptural principles based on what Shastra says, that is a fall down. In other words, if husband and wife also had illicit connection in terms, you know, nowadays is very common, right? They also have extramarital affairs and things like that. Well, just because they're married is not considered good or proper, right? Because it's against scriptures. Any illicit connection between man and woman, whether they're even married, is considered irreligious, right? So gender, of course, is raising a lot of social issues, and in fact, it's turning into be like a nightmare practically, you know. So where children are being affected, living in such families, right, and being so confused and suffering so much, right? So so they have the other social aspect to it. However, when you look at the platform of, you know, what Shastra says and the way Srila Prabhupada saw was very simple. You know, we see everyone at the platform of the soul. You know, they are souls suffering in this material life, and our mood and attitude towards them should be accordingly, rather than based on prejudice, based on the level of the body. Just like Prabhupada talked about, you know, how a man and a woman, you know, we have a body, you know, psychophysical nature, but also we are meant to see everybody, whether man and woman, on the platform of the soul. And if we if we turn around and act on the platform of the body, then we may be making offenses, right? We will be making offenses. So this is, we don't condone all the social things that come from it and the degradation, but at the same time, we see it from the perspective of the soul. Okay. Thank you. Prabhu, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, Mataji, very thoughtful and also insightful. There are a few ways I would counter those arguments, but one of them was when you go back to India and look at our traditional society, a space was created for these, whoever is not either male or female, there was a separate space created for them. They have temples, they have their own traditions, and the society would never trouble them. So, whenever people come to me and talk about those sort of things, they try to challenge. That's what I say, in Sanatan Dharma, there is, space for everyone. You can be who you are, and, you can continue with your desires and stuff like that, but there is a path. The path of bhakti is never closed, and it's always open. It's just the way you want to take it up. And that is when all these other things come up. But what you said is really helpful. Going forward, I'll also include those in my thought process. So I first need to digest it properly so I can communicate it properly.
Yes, Prabhu. In the Vedic culture, there was a place for everybody. There was a place for people who had gender issues, who didn't know which gender they belonged to, or there were issues with there was a place for prostitutes. Everybody had a place, right? Everybody was accepted in the Sanatana Dharma, right? So because Krishna and he accepted that there's going to be people, and even when in the 10th chapter of Canto 1, when Krishna is entering Dwarka, we hear about prostitutes, coming to welcome him, and Prabhupada talks about how they were all devotees, they were devotees, In other words, they were a necessity in society, because for people who are not able to, they need, they're not satisfied with their, relationship with the wife, and they need more, then there was a place to go, not that they pollute everybody, all the women around, there's a place. If you needed more, you just go to the prostitutes, not that you pollute everybody. Nowadays, you see the society is so bad, a man will have one relationship with a woman and he's not satisfied, and he'll leave her, and then he'll go to another woman, and then another woman, and there's litters of children, everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? And then they say polygamy is bad, But nothing in the Shastra, nothing in the Vedic culture was bad, because it was meant for spiritual advancement, right, Prabhu? So it was very well designed, it was very well designed. But the thing is that today, if these things have happened, we don't just reject society. We have to deal with it. We have to deal. I mean, it's got, even worse problems, right? So we have to deal it from a spiritual perspective, right? So that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, Mataji, again, Sanatan Dharma, we have the 4 Purusharthas. And basically, that's the definition of a religion, correct? Unless the religion can fulfill the 4 Purusharthas, it's not really a religion, So, and the provision has been made in the Vedas for all of that, including the path to liberation. So, thank you, Mataji. This was very enlightening.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you so much. You're always putting very deep perspectives and making us think, Prabhu. That's really laudable of you. Because that's what we are actually meant to discuss these things, they're not meant to be hiding under cover. I mean, these are the realities of material life. Our children are going to be facing, we are facing, how do we deal with them?
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu, for bringing them up.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't want to extend this further, but the reason I raised the question of the for Purusharthas is it's not only desire, but economical growth and stuff like that. Because a lot of times I hear people converting and then they give, oh, it's because of these things. And I'm saying, hey, you have all those 4 things here. So it's just that you did not explore it. So anyway, thank you, Mataji. In the
Thank
interest
you.
of time, I'll stop. Okay. Hare Krishna.
No. Anybody else? Love to hear from everybody. Anyway. Okay. Okay. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you very much.